Hey everyone! I wanted to do another video of easy care plants. Um, there were definitely a lot of plants that I left out of the first video, so um, this is gonna be just like kind of part two, and maybe I'll do a part three. I don't know. If you hear a little like rumbling kind of sound, like a tractor going or something, it's this thing. Um, So I apologize for the disturbance. Ooh, she's very, she's being very affectionate and cuddly right now. Um, that's Stevie. Um, so let's get started. First, hold on, I don't want her to eat the plants that I have all around here. Stevie, come on, why don't you go? Go. Okay. So let's start. We'll start with a little bit of a quicker one. This plant is called a ZZ plant. Now, you've probably heard of these before or seen them. They're pretty common. This is a small one, and I have another one. I actually have 3 of these little guys because I had a bigger ZZ plant, like much bigger, and then it kind of like, I don't know, it wasn't doing too well and it kind of started breaking apart on its own, so I just kind of broke it up into smaller bits. And I've been trying to see if I can like, grow these into their own bigger plants. This one has a nice little new sprout here, but they can be slow growers, especially if you don't have them in the brightest of light. But the amazing thing about ZZ plants is that they are good in a variety of light situations and they don't need much water. And they're just pretty easy to care for. They don't need high humidity. They don't need super bright light. They can thrive in, like the best light for them is probably bright indirect light, but they can also be fine in low light. I know some people will put them in like windowless rooms. I have not tested that myself. I don't know whether, I think it might depend on like, whether you're kind of getting some ambient sunlight coming in from a different room that does have a window that's kind of a little bit is leaking into the windowless room. So I don't know. I think it depends on the place. I'm always too scared to put a plant in a completely windowless room because I just feel like, I don't know, I just haven't had good luck with it in the past. And but I know that some people will choose these plants for like a windowless room. So that should give you an idea of how good they can be with low light. But try that at your own risk. These are great in terms of watering because if you forget to water it, it's going to be absolutely fine. A really common saying with ZZ plants is that the only way to kill a ZZ plant is to water it too much. So you definitely are going to be okay if you don't water it as much. I'm looking up the full plant name because I want to give it to you. Okay, so the full plant name is Zamioculcas zamiofolia. Zamioculcas zamiofolia. And it's shortened to ZZ because that is much easier. But yeah, one of my favorite plant YouTubers, he often, Nick Pileggi, he will say if you water a ZZ plant more often than you pay your rent, you're watering it too much. I would say that's not necessarily always true. Like I think you can do like, if it's a ZZ plant that is getting a lot of light, it might need watering a little closer to like every 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, But if you have it in a low light situation, yeah, just do it once a month. And even if it's not in a low light situation and you only get to it once a month, it'll probably be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. Just the one thing you need to remember is don't overwater it. If you're watering it every week, that's too often. If you're watering it, at sometimes even every 2 weeks might be too often. It just kind of depends on what kind of light the plant is getting. So, if you get one of these plants, evaluate how much light it's getting, and always like feel the soil. Make sure that it's absolutely bone dry before you try to water these plants. But yeah, these are really good plants for beginners. They're really good if you just if you don't even want to try to figure out your lighting situation and you're just like, I have a window and I get some light and that's all I know and I don't want to have to think anymore about it. Get as easy. These will definitely be the plant for you. And especially since you won't even have to think about it that much. They don't need a ton of fertilizing. They don't need a ton of water. They'll be great. There are a couple different varieties. This one is just the regular ZZ plant where, the new leaves will be a little bit lighter green and then it'll darken to a slightly darker green. But there is a ZZ Raven plant that is like almost black leaves. So that's pretty cool if like you just want something special or you like that kind of gothic aesthetic. And because the leaves are even darker, it needs even less light. So if you have a really low light place, try a Raven ZZ. That might fare even better than one of these regular ones. I know there are also variegated versions. I've never seen one in a store. They're going to be more expensive for sure. But yeah, try a ZZ plant. Seriously, I would say, if I had to choose like the top 3 easiest plants, ZZ plant is in there. So definitely consider that. Okay. Next one I'm going to do is a Chinese evergreen or Aglaonema. Aglaonema. I don't know. I just kind of assume I'm always pronouncing these scientific names incorrectly. So this is a Chinese evergreen, Aglaonema. Tigris is the variety of this one. You can kind of guess where it gets that name. These really beautiful tiger stripes. Chinese evergreens are really nice because they're just kind of not fussy. They come in a lot of different varieties and colors, so you can kind of like get into collecting them if you want. And they don't need a ton of light, and they can be really good in low light situations. This one's kind of big, so I will say that if you get a variety with lighter coloring, it's less likely to do well in a low light situation than a variety like this, which is overall pretty dark. So just keep that in mind. If you get one that has a lot of pink in it, a lot of lighter green in it, then, maybe try to put that a little closer to a window, but you still don't want to give these bright direct light. Direct light would probably scorch their leaves and be very bad for them and cause them to suffer. But bright indirect light is absolutely fine. If you do have a brighter spot, that's great. But if you have a low light spot, that's also going to be really great for these. And I have a bunch of them because I've been collecting them because they're just really cool looking plants. And sorry, I have some lipstick on my teeth. They are in the aroid family. So they're in the same family as pothos, as philodendrons, as syngoniums. So they're kind of, a lot of aroids are kind of easy to take care of in that regard. They're kind of flexible with their light, and they don't need a ton of watering. You don't have to like keep the soil moist. I would say with the Aglaonemas, you also will be okay with just letting the soil dry out completely, or nearly completely is probably okay too, and then giving it a really good drink. But you definitely, make sure you're not overwatering. This is, I think, this is one of those plants that I would err on the side of underwatering rather than overwatering, because you don't want to give them root rot. And that's true with a lot of plants in my experience and slash opinion. But I think with a lot of aroids, that's true. Like, they'll be fine if you are like, oh, I should have it was time, it's bone dry, I should have and it was probably bone dry for it's been a couple days, I should have watered it a couple days ago. It'll be fine. But you just don't want to make the mistake of like, did I water it this week already? I'm not sure, I'm gonna water it again. Don't do that. Yeah, this one has these actual, like, these little trying to get these things are the actual blooms, which is funny, but they kind of just like, I had a bunch of them on here earlier too, and they kind of just like kind of started getting brown and a little mushy and like falling off. So they're not really, you're not buying them for the blooms, and I think a lot of times the blooms won't really amount to much. Maybe if you have them in brighter light, the blooms might actually fully like bloom and come out. But anyway, okay, I'm talking too much on this one. So this is the tigress. I'm going to show you all the varieties that I have. Oh, geez, I just spilled it all over the floor. It's okay. Soil can be picked back up. This beauty is a Lady Valentine. At least that's what I was told. There are a ton of varieties of these, and there's a ton of them that have this like pink color or like a red color in them. So I'm not absolutely positive it's a Lady Valentine, because there are so many similarities between like a lot of the pink colored ones. But that's what I was told when this was sold to me. I've had good luck with this one so far. I have it closer to the window than the tigress. And this one has a really cool looking bloom, which maybe came about because it's closer to the window. But yeah, so this one's a pretty pink and green one. This one is a Siam Aurora. And this one has, instead of pink, it has more like red. So that's pretty cool. This one it's a little bit like spindly because it has all these like new leaves coming in, which, is great, but like it had some other leaves down here, and then I accidentally, like, I was just not paying attention, and I had a candle that was burning on the table as I was like cleaning these leaves, and the candle was like right under some of the leaves, and it damaged them so bad that I had to take the leaves off. So yeah, be very careful where you're putting your candles if you have houseplants, because they don't like that one bit. They're just like, even if it's like several feet under the plant, they can't stand it. So yeah, be careful. I felt so bad. I was like, I'm so sorry for hurting you. Mother is negligent. But yeah, there's a bunch of them that have this kind of red thing too. There's one called like Tivoli, there's one called like Firecracker. And honestly, gosh, I don't even, it gets kind of confusing to be like, okay, I have to look really closely at each leaf and like see if it's which variety it is, and it gets kind of like, oh my god, there's so many, and a lot of them look really similar. But this one's really cool. If you like that splash of red, seek out something like a Tivoli, a Firecracker, or the Siam Aurora. Okay, I have 3 more. name here. This is a Aglaonema Pink Splash, and you can tell why it has that name. This one's nice because, you know, it does have more green than pink. It's not as light as the Lady Valentine, so this one would probably be okay if it was a little like farther away from the window. But I also have this in the window, which will help keep up that pink variegation. So yeah, this is the Pink Splash. She's pretty. She's a pretty girl. And this one, I am not sure actually what the name is because the person who sold it to me actually wasn't sure. There are a couple of the Aglaonemas that have this like white speckly look to their leaves. They usually have something like, you know, like snow in the name or like speckled Sarah or I don't know. I've just been calling it Snow Queen because I think that might be a variety, but I've just been calling it that. But yeah, this one, because it does have a pretty significant amount of white, you are going to want to, you know, ideally give it more light than a low light situation. I personally have not tested the lighter varieties in a low light, so I don't know whether it would like survive and be fine, but lose some of that variegation, or if it would just like not do well at all. I'm not sure. But I think if you have the option to place these in a place where they're not getting low light, where they are getting a little bit of a brighter light, again, not direct, always want to do indirect with these guys, but if you have the option of giving it some brighter light, like an east facing window or north facing window would probably be perfect for these guys. But yeah, that'll help keep that beautiful variegation, which is probably like why you're getting something that's colored like this, you know? And I'm really excited that I think there's another leaf coming up on this one too, so. Okay, now the last one we're gonna have to go on a little trip for. So give me one moment. Okay, I have to take you on a little trip because this one is so big that I didn't want to move it. Let's see if I can put this on the floor. Okay, there we go. Okay, that'll work. Okay, let me move this out of the way. This, I'll move this Calathea. This is one of my pride and joys of my houseplant collection. This is a Aglaonema Silver Bay variety, and I've had this plant for a long time. Like, it's one of the oldest plants in my collection, and it's huge, and that's why I'm just like so proud of it, because I've managed to keep it alive for, you know, years and years. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's traveled from my apartment in Astoria. It's traveled from there like 5 years ago, and, you know, survived the trip to a different type of environment and a different type of lighting. My old room in Astoria had a much stronger light, and it survived it, and it's adapted really well to this spot. I've had it like in this spot for also years and years and years. I don't even know if I've ever tried a different spot with it. But I'm so happy with it. Like, it's done so well here. It's got, you know, so many leaves. It's so lush. It doesn't give me any problems. You know, before I started to get really into like making sure I was watering my plants absolutely like when they needed to be watered, I was also probably just kind of watering this like when I remembered, and it's been fine. It's giving me new leaves. It's gotten lush, and it's also not in a very highlight area. Like, I would call, like right now I do have a grow light that in the past year or so I've had. maybe a little bit more. I do have a grow light that kind of hits like this side of it, but the grow light isn't actually super close to it, and like usually with grow lights, the plant has to be within like a foot for the grow light to actually like work. And the rays to actually like penetrate the plant and whatever. So I don't know how much of the beneficial light that it's actually getting from the grow light. So I don't know whether that's like helping it at all, but it's not very close to my window and it's against a wall. And there's like other things kind of like blocking that window space. So it's not, I would classify this kind of area of my room as a low light area, and it's been doing great. And it does have this kind of like lighter, but it still is overall like I would call it a darker Aglaonema. And it's just done so well for me, and I'm so proud of it. So I love this plant, and I love Chinese evergreens, and I would definitely recommend them. If you can get one, get it. They're not terribly expensive. Obviously, the bigger they are, the more expensive they'll be. Or the more kind of the more rare variety, the rarer varieties are going to be more pricey. But they're fun to collect because they're easy, and you can kind of get this feeling like, oh, I'm less likely to kill this plant, so I can just like collect a bunch of them. And they come in such fun different colors. So yes, okay, I'm gonna bring you back over to where I was because I have one more plant. Okay, so I've got one more plant, and I would say that this plant is still an easy plant. It is not the easiest of these easy plants, if that makes sense. Like, I would definitely say it's still easy, but it's not as easy as a pothos. And you might confuse it with a pothos, because that's what I used to do. I used to confuse it with a pothos all the time. But and there's different varieties, so I'll show you. I'll get into it. But yeah. So actually, you know what? This video is already pretty long, so I'm gonna end it now, and then I'm gonna do a part 3 where I just talk about this third plant. Okay? Okay.